Hello, welcome to episode 5, season 2 of Hoppy Valley, the Burton History Podcast. Hi from me, Blue.
Hi from me, Jim.
Who says nothing ever happens in Burton, Jim?
Lots of badly informed people.
People who don't know about the Horse and Cheese Festival, which happened last night. We had half a dozen or so people come along, which was very, very good fun. Brought their own cheese, didn't bring their own horse, which is for the best, I think. Well, we chatted about a number of aspects of Burton history, didn't we, Jim?
We did. Just to clarify, it's last night as we recorded this, but not last night as you're listening to this.
Yeah, we're always.
Um,
I'm always confused about that.
well, timey-wimey.
So it's last week's
Yeah,
Horse and Cheese Festival, as you're hearing it.
yeah. Unless you're here listening to this like 3 years in the future, in which case, ain't time confusing?
Yeah, I mean, I just go with what's happening now, and
Yeah.
let time then make it irrelevant, anachronistic in its own way, because there's nothing else you can do, is there?
Well, many people have tried to beat time and no one succeeded yet.
So like tomorrow's world.
Yeah, they got it wrong. Where
Yeah.
does broken car?
Well, apparently I put jam on my CDs, it doesn't work,
Yeah.
and that was years ago. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. Um, Yeah, it was good. We talked about a number of aspects of Burton history. Well, some new research we're doing. I think there was a little bit of interest from others around us, but it's a lovely old, lovely pub, isn't it?
Great pub, the Burton Bridge
The
Inn.
Burton Bridge. It's ideal for this sort of thing. And of course, as the Horse and Cheese Festival was last night, today or last week or whenever it is you're listening, but always the same day of the year, which is
29th.
today, the 29th of October. It is the feast day of our patron saint of Burton, Saint Modwyn or Saint Modwenna.
God
But
bless you.
God bless her. But we're not going to particularly talk about Saint Modwyn today. We have done in the past. So scroll through the list of back episodes if you want to listen to Saint Modwyn. Did we do? I think it might have been last year's Saint Modwyn's Day. We did a podcast about Saint Modwyn.
Possibly without looking at the list. I can't remember. I know we have done one. And certainly, I think there will be a future one on St. Modwen as some of our current research is pertaining to uh, the time surrounding St. Modwen.
Yeah, that late 7th century period that so difficult to know anything about. The more research we do, though, we can kind of start to, I think, piece together something that represents a credible narrative. And a lot of that kind of history from that period of time has to be about that, doesn't it? Because there are no documents left. There's nothing particularly, nothing physical that remains. I was watching an episode of Time Team.
Wasn't the one in Burton, was it?
That was called History Hunters, I believe.
Yes, they were the precursor of
That
Time
was
Team.
that was right. That was the precursor to it, and they've not come back, which is a shame. And I was thinking, what's the chances of us, having a chat with the council and inviting them back to do some geophysical surveys on St Modwen's Orchard?
That would be amazing. That would
Wouldn't it?
be that would be dream territory.
Yeah.
Do we even need to involve the council? I mean, probably. There's laws and things, aren't there?
I think that it's I think it's called like sabotage of an ancient monument or something. If you don't, not
I'm
that
sure the time team people would probably know who they need to ask.
yeah, we don't recommend that. But yeah, I mean, it'd be good. We could start. I mean, I don't think it does any harm if we
No,
approach to the council in the first case, but we could certainly talk to them. I think that would be a great thing though, because we've discussed it before, Jim, haven't we? But we've got this kind of belief that there's something under there, and I think there's got to be.
I mean, there was a chapel. I find it really hard to believe that there's no physical. evidence under that ground that there was once a chapel there.
There's got to be, isn't there?
Um, and for us to actually be able to go, hey, look, that's where the chapel exactly was, would be
Yeah.
amazing.
And who knows what else you
Um,
might find down there.
who knows? Who knows? That's one of the really interesting things about archaeology. You don't know till you dig the hole.
Could be anything down there. But today's episode,
We
I was
do know
doing
things.
doing a bit of research on this one, and some of the headlines come up with absurd statements like Burton on Trent, not just famous for beer, or not only but also, and
Yeah.
we this if this pod series of podcasts hopefully says anything, that it's not that Burton was a one trick pony or a one horse town with a horse fair. He had lots of things going on, and one of them was building fairground rides, wasn't it?
It was, which links us back to horses in a way.
Yeah, we've got representations of horses. This has been one of the sources for this podcast. Elaine
Fantastic
Pritchard's
book.
brilliant labour of love. The Orton and Spooner story.
Shout out to Elaine Pritchard, the author. She did
Yeah,
an incredible piece of work writing that.
it's a great piece of work. We've also got some other sources, such as the hang on, where is it? The Fairground Heritage Trust,
Yeah.
which is keeping the story alive. So the Orton and Spooner story starts off, strangely enough, with a man from Measham, who's not even from Burton, born in 1843, George Orton. And George Orton was a guy who made the wagons for travelling fairground folk. Maybe he would have made the odd Romany Vardo, but the work on some of these travelling wagons is just extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, and I mean, so he was a wheelwright and a coach builder, George Orton. Um, and from that, we can, assume that he's building coaches and wheels for anyone who's willing to pay him to do it. But we do know that we've got record in, I think, 1883 of his first construction for a fairground company,
Yeah,
for a coach, for accommodation.
it's a
For,
company in Swad, isn't it?
yeah, but these coaches that are the living vehicles of the fairground people, um, often make they're really beautifully and ornately designed and decorated because they make up the frontispiece of the fairground. So the accommodation of the fairground workers is part of the attraction in making it an appealing place to visit.
Yeah,
So yeah, and when you look at the photographs that are available, and I would recommend to anyone who wants to, either get a copy of the book, or the University of Sheffield have the Orton and Spooner collection online that you can view and have a look at, and really, really beautiful works.
yeah, yeah. And George is born in Measham, but he soon moved to Burton on Trent. He lived at 229 Waterloo Street.
Yeah, and originally worked at the foot of Bearwood Hill, I think.
Right, yeah, we're going to come on to that. Yeah, the first works that George Orton set up was the Swan Works, which is the foot of Bearwood Hill, in the building that sort of has been rebuilt and latterly became the Swan Hotel, Swan Inn. Was it Swan Hotel?
So slightly, actually.
Yeah,
So Orton is working at the foot of Bearwood Hill in
yeah,
premise, and it doesn't say. I can't find out specifically where, but Charles Spooner, who was supplier to George Orton for carved pieces, um, had his own business set up in 1892.
yeah. He's
And
in Meadow Road,
well, before
I
that, he
believe.
sets up the Swan Works because Charles Spooner's dad was the landlord of the Old Swan Hotel.
Yeah, so they basically like they start off there
Yeah,
because that the Swan Hotel building. If you look at some of the 18th century illustrations with the medieval bridge, the building is there. You can see it.
yeah,
So I mean, it's a much older building than um, many give it credit for.
yeah.
But it also started off there, didn't it? Spooner's works were on Meadow Road as well. It takes quite a lot of space to do this stuff, which we'll come on to later. Um, but Charles Spooner was born in 1871. He is from Burton, and he's basically he's a carver, isn't he? He carves all quite pretty ornate
Yeah,
wooden um, shapes, creatures,
pieces. Yeah, I mean, there's creatures, there's people,
sculpture.
there's landscapes, reliefs. He does pretty much anything.
Yeah.
The council have recently been renovating one of Spooner's um, carvings that was in tucked away in a behind the scenes room at the town hall.
Oh,
And I know that Tracy at the council is currently working to get that on display. Hopefully, I think she's hoping to put it on display at the brew house.
well, I mean, yesterday, as we record, planning permission has been granted for the development of Bass House, and it's going to be called the Old Brewery Quarter, I believe.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, I mean, hopefully that's going to be a watershed moment in Burton's sort of history, heritage. And it'd be great to be involved with that, and that kind of thing. Finding an original Charles Spooner carving would be a fantastic thing to put on display there. Anyone who've noticed the Swan sculpture trail will be aware that that's also an echo of Spooner's work, where we had various amounts of swans dotted around
And
around.
the carousel horses, of course, as well.
Oh, sorry, the
Carousel.
carousel horses. That was, yeah, yeah. The swans was before that, and obviously that's it. Yeah, I was getting confused there. Swans um, are more of a symbol of Burton, really, in general, aren't they, with the St. Modern? But yeah, the carousel horses. Sorry, that was the echo of Charles Spooner's carvings. So if you wondered what they were, um, so the two got together and they started to create what were amongst the most sophisticated and sort of state of the art um, rides, fairground attractions that were around at the time.
Yeah, I mean the the period of time, entertainment isn't how we view it today. Um, they don't have the TV, they don't have for cinema. For entertainment, you're going to the theatre or you're going to a live performance of some sort. So part of that entertainment industry, and a massive part of that entertainment industry, is the travelling fairgrounds.
Yeah,
And certainly, Alton Spooner's business takes off in that direction in a grand way. Um, we're talking when we talk about Orton and Spooner and fairground rides, the names Orton and Spooner might not mean much to your everyday common person. But when you look into um, well, I'll read if I may. I'll read briefly from the Fairground Heritage Trust's website, and just this gives an exact example of how it's seen. These days, there are not many companies in the fairground game that manufacture rides and shows, and those who do are not exactly household names. But there is one company that is just as famous now as it was in its heyday in the first half of the last century, and that is the company Orton and Spooners. And when you talk to anyone from the fairground industry, when you mention Orton and Spooner, it's like saying Jaguar or Mercedes in the car industry. Um, this is a really big And in fact, I would say more than Jaguar or Mercedes. It's more like Rolls Royce. These are the Rolls Royce of fairground rides.
Yeah.
Um, and we've got a part of Burton history here that certainly before it was brought to my attention through Elaine's hard work in the book, I wasn't aware of. And it's such an amazing and fantastic thing to see that other side of Burton's industry. It's not like you say, it's not only beer, and in a big way, the Orton and Spooner Fairground Rides puts us on the global map. There are people from all around the world who are in the entertainment fairground business who revere Orton and Spooner's rides.
Mm.
Um, and that's evident when you start looking into the work with the Sheffield University, their collection and the various bits and pieces that Elaine's brought up and discovered. These are really revered pieces of work.
Yeah. Yeah. So just to sort of go back to sort of Burton focus, we've got the Swan Works, bottom of Bearwood. We've got the Meadow Road works there. That I think prior to this, they'd been Boddington's brewery outlet. So these continue to be an engineering works just off the bridge there. They established the Lion Works in Princess Street,
Yeah,
and yeah, and then so you've got different components come together. And the Orton and Spooner businesses are separate. They are actually run as separate businesses, but they're just a collaboration, and they get all the various components from these three locations. Although the Swan Works may have moved up to Meadow Road at some point, they they make everything and then they cart it round eventually to Victoria Crescent, where they've got this space that's sufficient size to actually construct the fairground rides in situ, and then test them. We have a fantastic old lady on YouTube, the YouTube history of Burton, if anyone's seen that, who lived on Dallow Street, probably I'd have thought from the age of this film, probably just before the First World War, who remembers being asked to try these rides out to see if they worked. If they didn't, or if something happened, I'm not quite sure what recourse would have been taken. But it's very much indicative of the time, isn't it? We'll
yeah.
just
I
try
don't
it.
I don't think health and safety was quite the concern it was
Yeah,
today.
we'll try it out with a load of local kids to see if they like it. I think it's more the case of how much fun it was,
Well, I mean, she says in the
rather
video,
than whether
she
it was
says
safe.
she says, we were told to play rough so that they, made sure it was worthy,
Yeah,
wasn't going to break on its first outing.
yeah, and I presume that this would have been one constructed on Victoria Crescent, and due to its proximity to Dallow Street. I know if it was parked up on Dallow Bridge and then tried out, was the impression I got. I may be wrong on that, but yeah. So you carting various bits of kit around Burton, constructing it on Victoria Crescent. Now, some of the things they were building, I did a little bit of research into this. This is a fascinating little sideline here. In 1927, a mining company in Summit Hill, Pennsylvania, constructed the Mount Chunk Switchback Railway, and this is a crucial development because it's a gravity railroad, and this kind of became the precursor to the Helter Skelter, the Switchback Railway. There was a Switchback Railway that was created as an attraction in 1884 at the Coney Island Fairground in Brooklyn, New York. And this kind of gave some kind of, this was a precursor in itself to what was then called the Scenic Railway.
Yeah,
And this is where the Orton and Spooner creations really start to take off, because the Scenic Railway becomes the main attraction for fairground rides. It's a gravity fed railway system. See, like a, a roller coaster, but it's painted so that you go through various different experiences, like traveling from A to
Yeah.
B, but obviously through all sorts of things like deserts, jungles, other exotic flora, and so forth. And you might meet lots of animals on that journey, carved by Spooner. Their main competitors in terms of manufacturing these things are a company in Kings Lynn, who themselves go broke, leaving the market completely open for Orton Spooner to take over, pretty much. Around the turn of the century as well, they get in on a bit of politics by having various generals of the Boer War and politicians of the time, Joseph Chamberlain being one of them, Lloyd George, and others, who are kind of like morphed into sort of horses. There were horses with politicians' heads. Sounds pretty nightmarish, but a kind of an attraction of the day. Um, until anything you'd like to add there, Jim, just before we continue to the
I mean, the one I love is the, like you say, the generals and the politics side of it. We get these beautiful carousel horses that are almost centaurs in appearance, aren't they? Because it's the
mm,
body of a horse, but then we've got the figure of the political character of the time, which I think they're really charming works.
as you can see
Yeah,
that.
yeah. They're really
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. And it's got C.J. Spooner, designer and carver of Burton-on-Trent. There's another one. That's General French, if you can see him.
Yeah,
And there's the sort of there's a picture of the fairground ride itself. I mean, it's
carousel. Yeah.
the classic carousel there, and I think they tested them down at the statues as well. I think, didn't they?
Yeah, well, we've got in our tour guide booklet, if you come on one of the tours, we've got a photograph in one of those where you can see that there were not for the statute fairs themselves, but on other occasions they'd use the marketplace to build one of these scenic railways to have an open day for people who might want to buy one to come and see it because they didn't have space at the works because they were building something else there. So they'd take one and set it up in the marketplace as the only place in Burton really big enough to house one,
Yeah,
and compare it to a lot of our modern day statute rides, much bigger. You know, it fills the market. One ride fills the marketplace.
yeah,
Um, and the scenic railways, I think, I mean, I'd love an opportunity to have a go on one. I don't know if there is anyone up and running anywhere, but you know, they really are a wonderful attraction.
yeah.
I mean, the Orton and Spooner story, when I read Elaine's book, I think for me, what I really enjoyed about it is it's not just a story of the work and the craftsmanship, but it's also a story of two families and the people. It's very much a personal story. These are people who are invested in what they're doing, they're invested in the town, um, and you get the lives of these people coming out through their businesses. Um, and I would recommend to anyone who's interested in local history, you know, get hold of a copy of Elaine's book, A Labour of Love.
Mm,
I think it was available in Burton Waterstone, so I think it should still be.
yeah, yeah. I read it recently as well, and absolutely what you say about the two families come together. I mean, Charles Spooner's first marriage ended tragically with the death of his wife. And he met George Orton's daughter Annie, and they were married. living at 199 Uxbridge Street in the 1881 census, and shortly thereafter moving to 101 Berkeley Street. So yeah, the two families came together. Annie was a redoubtable businesswoman who really drove the business on. George, which is quite, he's nearly 30 years older than Charles Spooner, so they're by no means are they contemporaries.
No.
But obviously, this bond that exists between George, the marriage between George Orton's daughter and Charles Spooner, um, makes the two businesses have a real affinity to each other, and they're not actually the same business until 1925,
Yeah.
where they become George Orton Sons and Spooner Limited, and that follows the tragic 1924 fire. I say tragic. I don't think anyone was killed in the fire at Victoria Crescent Works, but 2 days later, George Orton wasn't aware of it. Nobody told him because of the shock that it would have caused him. He was quite ill, living at Stretton, passed away. So 1924 was a really pivotal moment and a tragic year in many ways for the business. But in 1925, they kind of regrouped. They become George Orton Sons and Spooner Limited. They continue to make fairground rides. In the Second World War, they are commissioned to do engineering work for the war effort, and they make fairground rides right up to 1954. At this point, they decide to stop doing that, and I think the fairgrounds have ceased to become quite the attractions that they had been. And one of the other stories that we have with the Orton Spooner story in Burton is that of the early cinema, because
Mm.
the trucks, the wagons they made from the turn of the century onwards were actually housing cinematographic reels in basically the early cinemas, rather than being, on a location like they are now, travelled around from fairground to fairground. And Orton and Spooner started to get involved in early film, and they built a number of places in Burton. The Picture Drome in Curzon Street was built
Yeah.
around 1912, I think. Demolished in the 30s and replaced with the building that was there until about 2005. And that the these some of these buildings were built to house about 2,000 people. So when cinema really took off, it was a massive deal. And they had cinemas. They had one on the Dallow Street, Orninglow Street corner. There was a few dotted around the town, weren't there? But the big, or one of the key ones was the Electric Cinema in High Street. Now this is on our route on the Burton History
Yeah.
Tours route. So just tell us a little bit about the Electric Cinema, Jim.
So the Electric Cinema on High Street is currently a gambling shop. They've got slot machines. It's an arcades attraction. Um, but I mean, one of the great tragedies of the modern high street is the loss of the architecture. We see these glossy plastic glass frontages everywhere, but
Mm,
when you're walking through any town centre, always look up and see the architecture. It's amazing.
yeah.
And certainly, I think in terms of the electric cinema, possibly one of the greatest losses to Burton High Street, because as is featured in the guidebook, we've got a photograph of the cinema in its heyday, and it's a beautiful frontage, absolutely stunning. Um, Bits of which can still kind of be seen, the remnants of when you look up. But it's been replaced now with this modern frontage. But the Electric Theatre, sorry, was like one of Burton's key cinemas. Um, Big business. I think for me though, the real crown in the jewel in the crown rather, of the Orton and Spooner cinema empire is the Ritz.
Yeah,
Um,
unfortunately, it replaced Burton Opera House, didn't it?
yes, this
Well,
is this big moment of, oh my God, you've done that in the name of progress. So the Ritz Cinema, which in my childhood was known as the Odeon, later became Robin Cinema, and is now again the Ritz, but has been not really open properly for a long time. Um, I don't think. It was built by the Orton Spooner family, but in order to build this cinema in its 1920s Art Deco style, they had to pull down Burton Opera House, which is an absolute travesty, in my personal opinion.
yeah. So
Um,
just for listeners who might be interested, if you walk down George Street, which is the opposite side to the entrance now, there's a remaining back wall of the what is the back wall of the current building, but was actually where the carriages pulled up to drop you off if you were going to go to the opera. So you can still see the front door, if you like, of the opera house if you go down George Street. It's the only part they didn't demolish. So there's a little bit of an echo there as well that's still there. You have to kind of look out for it. It's not that obvious, is it? But it's
no,
but it
not
is but it is there, and that whole wall is an original, and that was built by the Marquis of Anglesea's money. The Marquis of Anglesea, who was into theatrical matters, more of
in a big
whom
way. He was a big fan of the theatre, wasn't he?
later, because we're going to do a podcast about various Marquis of Anglesea um, title holders and their effects on the town. So yeah, replacing the opera house. Yeah. So continue, Jim. Sorry, I interrupted you there
No, 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 by all means.
mid flow.
Yeah, by all means. I mean, and I think the to, to capture, I mean, cinema is something that is possibly dying off today. I know certainly a lot of cinemas struggle because of the streaming services that everyone prefers nowadays. I say everyone, not everyone maybe, but yeah, a lot of people prefer. Um, so in the cinema heyday, that we have 7 or 8 cinemas in Burton. Um, the fact that the only one that survives and remains into our lifetimes being the Ritz, the Orton Spooner centerpiece,
Yeah.
is I think testament to the success of that individual cinema. And although a tragedy that they pulled down an incredibly architecturally stunning theatre, um, the Ritz in itself, as a 1920s Art Deco piece, is a beautiful building. Um, it's just a shame they couldn't have built it somewhere else.
Yeah.
um, but
Yeah.
again, testament to its success is possibly its location, central to the town, um, and large enough that it held and seated a lot of people. I don't know the exact numbers,
It was a
but I
big
know
place. It was
certainly,
definitely a big place, and also the fact that you had to have numerous other ones to to take up the demand in
yeah,
other parts of the town. So you've got one on Dallas Street, the one that burnt down in about 2010, I think. The Curzon Street one was demolished in just before then, about 2008 or something, and replaced with a block of flats. The Electric Theatre is now an art, a slots arcade. Um, the the Guild the Guild Street one is a nightclub and something else. So yeah, there was a lot of these dotted around to take up the market. The demand. The demand was there. So not just one. Didn't we just have one large cinema in the middle of town? We had numerous. I think there was also one on Wetmore Road. Numerous cinemas dotted around the place to absorb the demand. But if there's anyone listening who remembers anything about any of these cinemas or has any anecdotes um, to tell us, please do get in touch and let us know. We'd be delighted to hear any stories about people's memories of the picture houses of Burton.
absolutely. Well, we were always happy to hear anything from anyone who's
Yeah,
listening to it. It reassures us that you're there for a start.
yeah. I mean, generally about Burton history would be better, but I mean, you can get in touch with us about anything if you want. Not we
Yeah.
won't be able to help you, but
Well, not we might, not necessarily, but we might.
yeah, it's unlikely.
Burton
But
history, we're
who
more
knows?
likely to be able to help
But
you.
who knows? So yeah, this is kind of like an interesting kind of thing, isn't it? Because they're in one sector of business there. They've branched out into another developing, emerging market, um, and and have a business that's going from the late 1800s. What was did we have a year on that first commission piece? Was it
1883, I think it was.
1883? And then George Orton's in business before that. I mean, Charles Spooner was only 12 at that point, so
Yeah.
he's probably not working, not as as the head of his business anyway. And the Orton Spooner company continues to operate until 1977. So
Yeah.
it's basically we're talking about a century of work there of these two families and the people that are involved in them and all the employees that they had. Quite a big employer in Burton, and you're in Princess Street at Victoria Crescent. In that area of Burton as well, there's going to be quite a few people who are employed in this enterprise, and that's quite an interesting thing. The people whose families have stories about people who have worked for Orton Spooner. To make these rides, I mean, it's a significant undertaking. They're very very sizable, and
Yeah.
they've got to be constructed. They're constructed on Victoria Crescent, and presumably they're deconstructed and transported, and then have to be reconstructed at the other end. I mean, this is again another time you might be using horses to get some of this stuff to the railway station. You might be using the railways to transport it, or you might be doing it on the road. Depending where you're going.
Well,
And
and certainly depending on which part of Orton Spooner's history we're talking about, like you say,
yeah, of course, yeah,
it's a massive span of time.
yeah. So all the different possible implications and connotations of ancillary industry that's involved in that. After a hard day's carving, you're going to want to have a pint as well. So another good reason to have lots
Yeah.
of pubs in the Horn and Glow area, which the
And
city
again, I
used
think
to be.
interesting again to just see another aspect of that social history of Burton. And I love, I'm very proud of us as a beer town, as a brewery town, but I love every time we have something to celebrate that isn't beer and breweries,
Yeah.
because I think it's very easy as someone living in Burton today to be down on the town and to not have a sense of identity or pride in Burton. But, you know, there really should be. We really all should be proud of Burton's history. Um, and Burton was for so long such a central part of global stories, um, that, we've got a very strong reason to be remembered globally as an important town.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely right. So yeah, we've got a whole story there about the creation of a non-beer related product that really put Burton on the map over the period of best part of 100 years. Um, all right, so yeah, as we say, if there's any stories that you've got as a listener you'd like to add to that, we'd be delighted to hear from you. Um, please uh, have a listen on Spotify and YouTube, and drop us a message on either of those two. You can get in touch with us directly on. Over to you, Jim, for the
BHT@goldenbadger.co.uk. That's BHT, Burton History Tours, not Burton Hot Tubs, at goldenbadger.co.uk.
yeah, that's us. So let us know what you think. If you want to come on a history walk with Burton History Tours, and I have to announce that I understand from Jim that we have branded umbrellas,
We have branded umbrellas.
which is
I don't
useful
have one
for.
with me to show you, but we do have a branded golf umbrella each blue, so that should we be faced with inclement conditions, we can provide some shelter.
Which on November the 15th isn't that unlikely, is it? I mean,
No, I
it's
mean,
fairly likely that we might be faced with inclement conditions on the 15th of November.
having said that, though, I think back through to all the history tours we've done over the past 2 years, and I remember very few where we've got wet.
There's
Maybe
been two
two.
recent ones that we got very wet, and I think that was that last one was what inspired you to buy the umbrellas.
Yeah, the last one was the one that certainly was the straw what broke the camel's back, so to put it.
Yeah. Have you picked these umbrellas up yet from the
Uh, yeah,
manufacturer?
I've not picked them up myself. They've been collected by my mum. They're in her
Oh,
car.
oh, right. Okay, so we have actually we've got them in readiness.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Well, yeah. So I mean, that's it. That's got to be a bonus if you're concerned about getting rained on the 15th of November. Fear not, because umbrellas are in Jim's mum's car and will be to hand.
Yeah, they'll be on the tour, whether we
And
need
if
them or not.
yeah, if you wanted to come along on that one, we meet at 12 o'clock outside the Burton Bridge Inn. That's midday outside the Burton Bridge Inn. Be on Saturday the 15th of November. Price £15. You also get an amazing booklet. I would say it's an amazing. That's the word I'm using to describe it. There it is. Look, in its full glory.
If you're on YouTube, you see this. If you're on Spotify, I'm holding this up for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, he's holding it up for
Uh,
Spotify for listeners. He's
yeah.
holding it up, and it's unique collection of photographs that follow our route around the town. We have a little bit about Orton Spooner outside the Electric Theatre on the tour. Um, but yeah, join us for that if you would like to.
And if you can't make the November one, but you're keen to make one this year, there is one more this year in December.
There isn't
Um,
the December one it's a special one, isn't it? Because
yeah,
it's actually on a Sunday.
on a Sunday, which is, we do one every now and then for on a Sunday for those that can't make Saturdays. And
Our li-
also, it falls between Christmas and New Year. And as everybody knows, nobody really knows what they're doing between Christmas and New Year.
no, we hear from people who say, "I can't do Saturdays, I'm busy," and we respond by scheduling one on a Sunday. Sunday the 28th of December for people who can't do Saturdays and don't know what to do, as Jim says in the rather sort of in nondescript period of time between Christmas and New Year. That void. It's got a name, hasn't it? What did you call it?
I call it Blur's Day.
Blur's Day.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
all the days kind of blur. And you're like, it's between Christmas and New Year. You're not at work. What day is it? I
could
don't
be
know.
this, could be that. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you've got no else to do, come on a walk.
Hey.
Excellent. Right. I think that rounds it up for today. Hopefully, we've enlightened you a little bit about Orton Spooner. If you're an expert on it and you listen to this pulling your hair out, then write us something and we'll
Is
read
that
it out next
specifically
week
in Elaine?
and apologise generally. Okay. Thank you very much for joining us on Hoppy Valley, the Burton History Podcast. Until next week, it's goodbye from me, Blue, and it's goodbye from him.
Jim.
Goodbye.